One. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, depending on where you're located. Thank you for logging into this live Zoom session today. We have a very special guest with us today, none other than Force Master Chief, retired Laura Martinez. She is, and I have to say this, she is one of our prior Force Master Chief for the Hospital Corps, Director of the Hospital Corps. She is our only African American woman Force Master Chief for the Hospital Corps. So, and who better to bring on board to celebrate Women's History Month than our very own. So I would like to say thank you first and foremost to Force Master Chief retired Laura Martinez for being on board today. Thank you so much. I am Chief McCauley. I will be you guys' host for today. And there are a few questions that we have that we're going to ask Force Master Chief today. So for everyone, thank you for being on board and please enjoy this opportunity. Our first question today for Force Master Chief is, why did you join the United States?
That's a great question. Excuse me. First of all, I have to tell you all that I don't do this very often, but Chief McCauley he's kind of special to me. And so I decided to make an exception to the rule. So I'm very honored that he's asked, and I'm very honored to spend some time with you all. So why did I join the Navy? Well, first of all, I'm from a small town in Louisiana, very small town. I did go to college, and I wasn't a great student in college. And I was in the small town and having a very hard time getting a job, like most people from small town America. And I decided that the Navy was a place for me. So I joined the Navy, and I joined to stay. I joined to stay in the Navy. I was going to do 20. I was going to do my 20 years, and I was going to get out of the Navy and go do something else. Well, I stayed 32 and a half years. So, but I joined when I was a little older. So I struggled a little bit in boot camp. I struggled a little bit in Corps school, because I was an older sailor. But once I got it, I got it, and I just kind of zoomed from there. So, and oh, by the way, when I joined the Navy, I wasn't a corpsman. I wasn't going to be a corpsman. I was going to be a CT. And when I was in the recruiting, when I was going at boot camp, something came up. I don't know what it was about something, and I didn't really, excuse me, I didn't really want to be a CT. And they said, hey, you know what? Here's a list of ratings. Pick one. And I said, is corpsman open? And he said, yeah. The classifier said, yeah. I said, then I'll take corpsman. And that's how I became a hospital corpsman. I did not enlist to be a corpsman. So.
Wow. Little known fact.
Yeah, I did not enlist to be a corpsman.
Okay, awesome. Let's move to question number 2. What advice or guidance would you give to any sailor that may be facing adversity in their professional career?
Well, first of all, understand that we're all going to face adversity, whether you're in the military or outside the military. You will, and again, every day you try your very best to be the very best sailor that you can be. And so when you face adversity, you have to face adversity. You have to face it full. If you've done something wrong, admit you've done something wrong. Admit it. And then you learn from it, because that's what adversity is all about, learning from what you did wrong. And the other thing is that I will always advocate for this. Have those mentors. Mentors are very, very important in your life and your career, and have multiple mentors so that you could go to and say, here's what happened. Can you help me work through it? And that's important to be successful in your military career. You have to have this mentor. I remember a long time ago, I was in a meeting, not a meeting, maybe, I was at a meeting, and there was an African-American admiral by the name of Brewster, I think his name was, and he stood up on the stage and he said, you should always have multiple mentors, because not only are they there to help you through the good and the bad times, but when there are opportunities that leadership is looking for that right person, that person advocates for you. That person will say, I know the perfect person for that job. And so again, you will always face adversity. I faced adversity in the military, but again, I got through it. I learned from it. My mentors helped me to understand what I did and also understand what I should do to move forward.
Awesome. All right. All right. And then our next question, our third question is, what were some of your most memorable experiences while serving?
As I was thinking about that question, I thought, it's been so long, but there are two things. Number one, I remember meeting my first Chief Petty Officer. Her name was Chief Sybil Hawkins-Smith. And I was a third-class petty officer. And we were stationed on Guam. And she was the first female chief petty officer that I've really ever met. And she was a corpsman. And she looked great in uniform. She was very professional. She exhumed leadership. She just brought it. She brought her game to the table. And I was like, that's who I want to be. I found that chief petty officer that I wanted to emulate in my career. And I still remember that today. The second thing is that I'm all about sailors. And I'm all about making sailors better than who they think they can be. Better than who they think they can be. So when I was the Command Master Chief at Bethesda, now Walter Reed, I had a young corpsman, E3, that worked in one of the clinics. This kid was super smart. He would tutor officers during his lunchtime on calculus. There was an officer who was in grad school and was struggling with calculus or calculus. This kid would tutor him during lunchtime. This kid wanted to go to the Naval Academy. He had adversity in his life. His mom became a drug addict. And he had to drop out of Rutgers to help his dad care for his young sisters and brothers. He wanted to go to the academy. I convinced the academy to drop his bad grades from college and to allow this kid to go to the academy. And he graduated from the Naval Academy.
Wow.
Yes. So I'm all about making sailors better than they think they are. And that's opening the right path for them. So those are two of my most memorable things.
Wow, that is amazing. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
He sure did. He went to the academy. They were like, they told the academy said, Master Chief Martinez, you are just something. I was like, hey, the kid had a bad time in his life. Let's don't punish him for the rest of his life for the decision that his mother made at that time. I mean, the kid was on a wrestling scholarship at Rutgers University, doing very well. His mom became addicted. His grades dropped. He had to drop out of school. He came in the Navy to help his dad to provide for his sisters and brothers. Yeah, still remember that.
That is an amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move to our next question. Question number 4. What is leadership to you?
To me, I used to work when I was the force, the Surgeon General, my Surgeon General Robinson used to say all the time, he said, force leadership is a contact sport. It's like, oh, okay. Leadership is about getting from behind your desk and looking at your sailors face to face. Leadership is about knowing your sailors. Leadership, because if you know your sailors, you know when something's not right with that sailor. Leadership is about what I said earlier, making your sailors better than what they think they can be. You know, as you go up the ladder of leadership, you know, E4, E5, E6, E7, whatever, E8, your job is to take care of those beside you and behind you, and to support those above you. Again, support above, care for those next to you, and more than, you know, and promote those behind you. Carry those up, making sure they're getting the things they need to be successful. One of the things about me that most people will tell you is this: I remember names.
Yes.
So when I was stationed at Naval Hospital, Okinawa, one of the running jokes for the sailors checking in was, man, she gets your name down. She knows your name. And so I would do that because as a leader, it's my job to let my sailors know that I care about them, that I care about their well-being, that I care about them being promoted, that I care about their families, that I make sure that they're getting what they need to be successful. So that's one thing about me that, and people are amazed. I was standing on the food court at Bethesda with another command master chief, and I was saying, good morning, H.N. Smith. Good morning, Petty Officer Jones. And he's like, he looked at me and said, how do you do that? I just do it. And so leadership is getting up, talking to your sailors, knowing your sailors, you know, finding out what's going on in their lives. You know, I don't mean being intrusive. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm really talking about getting to know your sailors, because again, a good leader knows their people, they're committed to their people, they promote their people, they, you know, and they help their people in support of the mission of that unit. Because at the end of the day, if my people are successful, if the command's successful, and my people are successful, and we're all going to be successful. That's what leadership is about. Again, that's simple. And I know all the rules of leadership and, you know, all of that. I do know all of that. But for me, leadership is about my people.
Awesome. All right. And then I think your video might have fell over a little bit.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I got a little excited.
All right. Let's go to general question number 5. This is the last of the general questions. In retirement,
okay,
what do you miss most about serving?
Talking to people, talking to sailors, talking to the junior sailors. I like to know what sailors' goals are. What's your goal? You know, and most people will, you know, and Chief McCauley, when we first came on, what did I say? What's going on? Where are you going? How you doing? You know, what's you know, I like to know what sailors' goals are. And if I could play a part in helping them meet that goal, you know, that's even better. One of the joys of having served is when a sailor reaches out and say, do you remember me? And, you know, at this point in time, that's not so easy anymore because I'm much older. But do you remember, you know, we met and you told me, you said to me, what did I want to do? And you helped me or you gave me advice. That's what I miss. I miss talking to sailors. And anybody who wears the uniform, and when they walk away from the whatever service, they will tell you the same thing. You miss being around the people, because through your career, you meet some awesome people. You get to serve with some awesome people from all walks of life. And that is so cool. That is just the coolest thing. So
awesome. And thinking of speaking of meeting people, I see Command Senior Chief Crittenden just signed in. Yeah, he just logged in.
Oh, I know him.
Yep.
Command Senior Chief Command Chief Clinton will tell you, you remember, he wanted to deploy. Was that you? And you were a dental tech. I can't hear you.
I think you're on mute, Command
There
Chief.
it is. Yeah, that was me. How we doing? How we doing?
Good. Senior Chief wanted to deploy, and he was a dental tech. We were stationed at 2nd MLG, and he was in the dental battalion, and he wanted to deploy. And they were like, no, he's a dental tech. I was like, no, he can learn to be a corpsman. He's going to deploy. And he deployed. I was like, he's going to learn to be a corpsman. He's going to deploy.
Yes, indeed. And here I am today. I just got done PT, and I realized that the thing was today, so I just figured I'd jump on real quick.
Yeah, no, I remember. See, again, that's the thing that's so cool, because that's Senior Chief today, you know. And if someone would have said, nah, he's a dental tech, he can't go nowhere. If I would have said that, you know, again, I was like, what do you mean he can't deploy? Because he's a dental. I was like, he'll learn to hold a bandage. He can hold a tourniquet. He can put on a tourniquet. Good. They can train him. Good. He good.
Those of y'all that don't know, that was the start of us becoming corpsmen. That was the start of the rate being ready to go away. So it set the foundation for a lot of that.
Anyway, okay.
Okay, so now that concludes the 5 general questions.
Okay.
The next 5 questions are actually from junior sailors, all E5 and below. And I'm not sure if they're logged in right now. I know some of them initially, they said they couldn't make it. So if they're on, then they'll know which question is theirs. All right, so the first question from a junior sailor is, what motivated you to continue despite the adversities you had to overcome? And how did you use that to fuel your passion instead of feeding the negativity?
Well, that's a great question. You know, like I said before, you know, you're always going to get adversities. You know, I remember when I was stationed at Guam, I remember a first-class petty officer saying to me, you're going to make chief because you're a woman and you're Black. And I was like, what? I was like, that is the most stupidest thing I mean, you know, when I get excited, my voice gets really, I was like, that's the most, let me tell you, you always are going to face adversities, regardless of you're man, woman, Black, you're always going to face adversity. And as I say, you know, you have to keep your eye on your prize. You know, if your desire is to have a career in the Navy, then you're going to have to do those things to get there. Now, when I say adversity, you know, don't allow anybody to say or do something to you that is unethical. You know what I'm saying? Not what that is wrong, that you know is wrong, you know, whether it's sexual harassment, sexual abuse, whatever, or discrimination. You know, those are adversities that you need to bring forward, because trust me, if they're doing it to you, they're doing it to someone else too. So you got to stop that right away. You know, did I ever face stuff like that? No. But I've had somebody call me gal, and I don't appreciate anybody calling me gal. I'm not your gal. You know, I'm not your gal. And I've had somebody touch me inappropriately, and I had to put him in his place, and he never did it again. But guess what he did? He did it to someone else, and he got fired for it. So you gotta, those type of adversities, you have to ensure you're reporting them. But, you know, you're all gonna have slips and mishaps. You know, it's life, whether in uniform or out of uniform, and you've got to get through them. And as I said before, find those mentors, find those folks in your life that you can talk to and share those issues with, so they could help you get through it. We all need that. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm you know me, I'm just listening. This is amazing. All right. Question number 2. The next junior sailor asked, what kept you going, and how, well, the way this junior sailor wrote it, what kept her going, and how did she keep her drive and motivation throughout her entire career?
Well, first of all, I will tell every junior corpsman on here, learn your job. Learn your job. You know, a lot of times when I was stationed at Bethesda, I would have sailors wanting to go, they wanted to find Navy campus before they come and talk to me. You know, I understand we all come in for education. I'm all about education. But the first thing I will tell any sailor, learn your job. Because when you learn your job, you are better prepared to do your job, regardless of where that job is, whether it's in an MTF, a clinic, in Iraq, or in Afghanistan, or Djibouti, or wherever they do, you know, on board ship, wherever. That is the most important thing, because when you know your job, you know your rate. You know your rate, you can serve anywhere and do anything. That's important. And sometimes we forget that. We forget that as sailors. We are a junior hospital corpsman. You come in, you're an HN, learn your rate, learn what it means to be a good hospital corpsman. When you do that, you spring forward. Third class, you are an LPO or an ALPO. Second class, so as you move up the ladder, you are gaining more skills and more knowledge, and people are starting to recognize you because you are the go-to person in that command, in that clinic. Does that make sense? Does everyone understand that?
I see someone shaking. Yes.
And so for me, knowing my job was always my motivation. And people knowing that I know my job, leadership knowing that I know my job, always spring me forward into being, you know, a command career counselor, or a chief in a clinic, or, you know, whatever the job was. You know, I remember being the department head in Guam of the inpatient medical record department, you know, because I always, that was my focus, getting my job done, being proficient at my job, so that, and then being ready for advancement. Because the thing is, you know, I made chief like with 8 years in. I made chief real quick. At about 13, 14, I was a senior chief. It took me a little longer. By 20 years, I was a master chief. So again, I knew my job and I was ready for the next pay grade. And that was very obvious because I spring forward. So it's all about being prepared. You know, if you are a great third class petty officer, but you're not being promoted to second, you're going to continue to be a good third class petty officer. But I need you to be a second class because I'm looking at you to go into another position. But you can't do that if you're not ready, if you're not studying, if you're not being proficient, if you're not doing all of those things that make you a good sailor. I'm off my soapbox.
All right. Okay, question number 3 from the junior sailor. My question for her is, who were the leaders that made a notable impact on her, and what did they do that was so impactful?
Well, I told you about Chief Hawkinsmith. That was that chief made the greatest impact on me. Even I still remember when I walked into her office and she was sitting there, and she was tall, she looked great in uniform. She was just, I mean, she had the wow factor as a chief petty officer. And I emulated that. And I've met other great chiefs, but I don't think anyone has made an impact on me in my career to want to be that chief petty officer than Chief Hawkinsmith did. And she eventually got commissioned as an MSC officer. But her time in that uniform, with the anchors on her collar, impacted me.
Wow. All right. And then question number 4 from a junior sailor. This is a good one. How does someone become the leader of the greatest corps ever, the Force Master Chief?
Well, there's a couple things. You know, I talk about doing your job, and somebody knows. So I was the command. So Admiral Robinson, who was the Surgeon General with me, was in Yokosuka. He was the he was the CEO of the hospital at Yokosuka. And I was the command master chief at Okinawa. I met him a couple of times, but I was the command master chief, and we had a great command at Okinawa. The CO was Captain Middleman, who retired as the Deputy Surgeon General several years ago. And I was stationed. I left Okinawa. He knew me at Okinawa. I went from Okinawa. I think I went to MLG, and then I went to Bethesda. I went to the hospital at Bethesda. So the command master chief at Bethesda, I was at MLG, and the command master chief at Bethesda really, really, really wanted to leave. And I wanted to go to Pensacola, and Force DeRosa at the time, Jackie DeRosa, our first female Force Master Chief, she said, no, you can't go to Florida. You can go to Bethesda if you want to. And I was like, Bethesda? I'm not going to Bethesda. Oh my God, Bethesda? Oh, the Bellway? Oh, Lord, no. And my husband said, why not you? Okay, why not me? He said, you're just leaving for serving the Marines. There's a lot of our Marines who are getting injured in Iraq at the time. The hospital was, we were bringing all the casualties into Bethesda. So he said, you have a great rapport with the Marines. I knew that I had a great rapport with the 3MEF general, and the Sergeant Major Marine Corps. I knew him very well. So I said, oh, okay. So I'll go to, so Admiral Robinson contacted, well, before I even said that, Jackie DeRosa contacted Admiral Robinson at Bethesda because he was the commander. And she told him, she said, I would like to send Master Chief Martinez to Bethesda. He said, I'll take her. He didn't even interview me. He didn't interview me or anything. He said, I'll take her. It was a tough tour, but it probably was the most rewarding tour. So he was being looked at to be the next Surgeon General. And he did not want me to leave Bethesda, but I had to leave because if he had not been selected, I wouldn't have had a tour to go to. So I went to FMTB East. And I was in a meeting chewing out two sailors who were speeding on the highway with a car and a motorcycle. I mean, I was in the middle of a good chewing. And the Master Sergeant said, Command Master Chief Martinez. I was like, what? He said, the Navy Surgeon General would like to speak with you. Like, okay. And the Admiral said, I need you to come on and be my Force Master Chief. And that's how there were a lot of people angry at the way his selection was. He said, I don't have time to do a board. You're going to be my force. Now, here's what came with that. I had somebody say to me, what are you going to do for the hospital corps? This was another Master Chief who went to other Master Chiefs and said, do you think she's ready? Do you think she's the right person? There was a command master chief even talked to Mick Poncampa and said, she's not the right person. I don't think this is not right. And Mick Poncampa said, it's Admiral Robinson's decision, who he wants. So, Master Chief, do you think she's ready? Is she, what are you going to do for the hospital corps? What do you mean? I'm a Master Chief like everyone else. But they questioned me because, quote unquote, I had never been on a ship. Okay, during the time when I came in, it was very few openings on ships for females. But I had spent a lot of time with the Marines. I had done a lot of the hospital stuff. But because I had never been on, can she do this? Is she the right person? Oh, I don't know. I mean, again, it just kind of, and so I remember that same Master Chief who said, is she the right person? When the schoolhouse opened here, I brought the Marines. I mean, we did it up. He came up and I invited all the Force Master Chiefs. And he came up to me and he said, you know what, Laura? You've done a great job. I said, did you think I wouldn't? Did you think I wouldn't? So yeah, that's how I became the Force. And it was tough, but it was, and I want everyone to know, I never, again, I came in to stay 20 years. You know why I really stayed more than 20? Because my son wanted to go to Wake Forest. And I felt in order to support his dream, I needed to stay in the Navy a little while longer. That's why I stayed more than 20 years. And I never in my mind, never saw myself as a Force Master Chief. I just happened to be in the right place, at the right time, from RTC all the way to Bethesda. Just happened to be at the right place. And again, I didn't want to go to Bethesda. Did not want to go to Bethesda, and I did. And Bethesda was probably, of all my tours of duty, Bethesda was probably the toughest tour, because we were at war and we had we had a lot of injured people in our hospital, and that take a toll on the staff and everyone who's associated with that. But so that's how I became the Force.
Wow. This is awesome. Okay. And then that brings us to question number 5.
Someone said, no, go ahead.
Okay. So that brings us to question number 5 from the junior sailor that says, do you have any suggestions on educational material to better ourselves?
Your rating, study your rating stuff. Study. You know, I always tell sailors, when it's time for you to take that advancement exam, that should be your priority. If you're doing off-duty education, that needs to be second. Your studying for advancement is your priority, because if you don't advance, you don't get money, responsibility. There's a lot that you're missing out on. So it is very important that you put aside that class you're taking and study for advancement. Have any of you ever read the book Lincoln on Leadership? Get that book and put it on your shelf. Get that book. I think that is one of the best leadership books, because it's amazing how leadership don't change. Good leadership don't change. You know, Lincoln was a leader. Whether you like Lincoln or not, Lincoln was a leader, and Lincoln had to lead during some tough times. And if you go back and you look at his principles, it's the same leadership principles that we are using today to be good leaders. Because again, leadership is hard. It's hard because you've got to lead people sometimes who don't want to be led. Leadership is hard. But every day you come to work as a leader, you're trying to do the very best that you can to support the mission and to support your people. You know, so yeah.
Awesome.
Does anyone hold on, Chief. Does anyone have any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, Force Master Chief. I'm Iris Torfel, H1 Torfel. So I'm preparing for my Sailor of the Year board, and one question that they asked me was, in my career as a leader, when was it reach back to when things didn't go as planned? What did I learn from it, and how did it mold my leadership style moving forward? Now, I would like to ask you the same question.
Say that one more time for me.
So in your career as a leader, when things didn't go as planned, what did you learn, and how did it mold your leadership style moving forward?
Oh, let's see. What did well, one of the things I think as a Master Chief, I tried really hard one time to get someone into a position that I thought was the right position. I thought the individual would fit in well into the position. I really did. And I allowed my emotions, I allowed my emotions to get in the way. I didn't do a good job in selling the reason why I thought the sailor would be great for the position. I allowed my emotions to, and I mean, it was bad. It really was bad. And I had to remember that I am passionate. And sometimes that passion comes across and everybody don't appreciate that. So I had to learn that when I go in to sell someone, I've got to be more factual and less emotional. Does that make sense, HM1?
Yes, Master Chief, I'm listening.
Yeah. So sometimes, you know, again, you have to know thyself sometimes. And sometimes in knowing thyself, we have to look at we have to look at those things that are not always so positive. And I had to look at myself because I knew that this person was the right person for the job. But again, I let my emotions get too involved. And so next time around, I was much better prepared to sell the person that I was putting forward.
Thank you for that, Master Chief.
You're welcome. Any other?
Anybody else have any questions?
Hello?
All right. Well, I don't think anyone else has any questions. I do want to share something, if you don't mind. So this picture right here, Force, what was going on here?
With my hair?
No, no. I was just asking where were you? Where is this picture taken?
I don't remember where. I think I was in San Antonio.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think I was in San Antonio.
All right. I just wanted to share that she said, what, my hair?
It's like, what, my hair? Well, thank you all very much. And it's nice. Again, this is the part I miss most of all. I don't do and Chief is right. I don't do a lot of public because I do work for the Navy, and I don't want to take a lot of time, but for him, I would do this, and for you all, I would do it. I do miss being around sailors, and any leader will tell you that that's the one thing that you miss the most is just talking to sailors, just helping them realize their goals, and so thank you for allowing me to share some of my thoughts with you this afternoon.
Absolutely.
Kind of got emotional there.
Absolutely. Thank you, shipmates, for logging in, and thank you, Force Master Chief Retired Laura Martinez, for your time. You all please stay safe and stay blessed.
Please stay safe, please.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.